What's going on, guys? It's Adam P and welcome back to Newcastle United News. Tomorrow we are back at St James's Park taking on Wolves, and it is now less than 1 week until we play Barcelona in our first Champions League game of the 2025-26 campaign. Of course, we have lots to get into. Press conference will be taking place today before the game, but I've actually pre-recorded this video just to inform you on the Thursday night because there's been so much information in the evening time where I basically got this all in the video today. So if there's something big in the press conference, either be a second upload or I'll just leave it to the Wolves game. Just to give you a heads up, I'm recording this video on the Thursday night. But just before we get into the news, of course, if you're new around here, make sure you get down there, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any upcoming Newcastle United content. Make sure you are always going to be updated when I am uploading videos on the channel. And by subscribing, you will always see it on your timeline. Starting off, and this is the final time, by the way, we're going to address this Barcelona ticket situation because I am fully perplexed and just a bit baffled at what's going on here now. Just to remind everyone, from a couple of days ago, so a school in Dundee had secured 45 tickets for the Barcelona game that had packages available for £295, where a child, bearing in mind this is a private school where it would cost you upwards of £20,000 a year for your child to have the privilege of being able to go to that school. Packages were offered £295, return, overnight stay, and the ticket itself. Believe it or not, Newcastle United has now confirmed this on BBC Sport. I didn't even realise this in my video yesterday, so I want to talk about it now. But Newcastle United has actually confirmed on the BBC report all 45 of those tickets are unauthorised tickets. So believe it or not, behind the goal, bearing in mind as well, you look at the private school, you have to look at safety and health regulations at the school. The children aren't going to be jotted around St James's Park. They are obviously all together at the game. All 45 of those tickets have been illegally passed on to them by what the schools described to be a company that has said Newcastle United's gave us the packages for this game, we will sell you the tickets. This has all been done behind the back in Newcastle United, and all of those tickets have now been cancelled. What has been a bit of an astonishing ticket scandal, you would say, at this point, because how the hell have these tickets got to the Dundee school? The Dundee schools believed that the tickets were sorted unfairly, and as far as I'm aware, this is a school that's been at St James's Park several times. So when you look at the situation, what about the previous attempts at St James's Park would have fared in? Or has every single one of them been dodgy? And the reason why I wanted to highlight this is because I'm properly baffled. Now, I've tried my best to walk away from this video. I tried my best to look online and just try and figure out how this has actually happened. And it's just one of them scenarios where I'm truly puzzled by it. I'm trying my best to figure out. I just can't get to the bottom of this one. And I have to say, towards Newcastle United, by the way, fair play. They've been swift. The response, the action, and the protocols they've done with the ticket situation straight away. When it was first issued by the Trust, first statement on social media, my video would have been a couple hours after that. Newcastle, to be fair to them, within 24 hours, response sent to social media channels, went into detail about how they've actually stopped the ticket, went into a lot of detail about how this has happened. You're talking over 4,500 accounts now being monitored by this football club with bans and suspensions in place to anyone who is looking to sell tickets on, which is behind the club's back and not using the club platforms. Fair play to the club, because I actually think the response has been swift, it's been quick, and they've issued a real statement. They've actually given an explanation of what's going on here, and the only thing is, I'm just so baffled at how the school's got 45 tickets together. How the hell did they manage that for Barcelona? Because that's the thing that's properly puzzling my head in. But yeah, it is what it is. Fair play to the club. That's the last time I'm going to mention it, unless there's any major updates I need to give out. But that's it. The Dundee school will not be going to the game next week, which means you guys, 45 tickets, up for grabs amongst our fan base for people who fairly use the system, can go on with your memberships and buy those tickets. As for major updates, before we talk through the inner workings of the football club and what's going on behind the scenes, Yoane Wissa will now be training with the team today. There was a little injury scare coming off in his last game for DR Congo, but as I said a couple of days ago, nothing to be concerned by after I personally looked at it, but Newcastle made sure straight away, check the player out, made sure he's fine, and the indication from Craig Cup and from the journalists is that he's good to go and should be, in my opinion, starting against Wolves tomorrow. I would start Yoane Wissa out the two strikers. He's got the experience, he's done well in the international duty, and he's a player got to remember, he's on number 9 now. He's the guy that's going to kick on for us and do well from minute 1. I'm expecting Yoane Wissa to do well against Wolves. I would start him in a heartbeat. But the good news is that he is not injured and he'll be ready to play. And speaking of the Craig Club article, he's actually confirmed not the last season of this badge. It will at least be 2027 when there'll be a new badge in. So this badge, for now, will be staying at Newcastle now. But the original plans was for this to be the final ever season before they had a new badge in place. Of course, that hasn't been confirmed. And I think for Newcastle as well, I reckon they are treading on thin water, especially in terms of a badge. I reckon this is one of the major things that could really upset the fan base if you get it wrong. This is our history, this is our heritage, and you've seen in the past, I think Leeds United is a famous one, where you look at horrendous badge changes. If we mess this badge up, there will be backlash. Our fans will not be happy, they will kick off about it. Newcastle has to make sure. I've got nothing against us modernising the badge, but if they mess it up, and especially that thick, not the best outline, I would say, the badge. That design as a first sketch, I just don't like it at all. If that is our new badge, there will be kickoffs, and Newcastle has to make sure, I reckon, with an extended time now, they'll be looking around, they'll be seeing what they can do, and Newcastle is slowly working into it. And of course, and other factors as well. They have been looking at buying land for a new training ground. So you originally had land planned. In the end, the price was too high, so Newcastle turned it down, wasn't interested at all in being overinflated by our local community into buying land up. And this is the problem Newcastle is going to face, because everyone knows the PIF is just filled with billions of pounds. So anyone that owns land and they get offered an opportunity from Newcastle, can we buy your land? Those prices are going through the roof. So Newcastle are looking at places around Gosford, they're looking at places around the airport. Deep down, I think the obvious example is, I think this article from Craig almost contradicts with it, but the fact that Jamie Rubin owns land himself, Newcastle can just use some of Jamie Rubin's land, but the fact that they're even looking at different land indicates that there may not be enough available land for what Newcastle is trying to do, or the club thinking long and long and long ahead, just want to buy a huge patch of land anyway, just so they can do whatever they want with it. They can set up exactly what they want, and especially for our training ground, I reckon you're looking at one of the world's most exciting, ambitious, huge training ground. I think Lee Charnley at Newcastle famously mentioned that players are not going to sign for this football club because of the training ground. Now, while I would kind of agree with that, I have to say on the flip side, if you have the best training facilities in the world, you have the best, most secluded, private, and just ambitious, especially with Salah, De Gea, if you're talking all these huge Saudi Arabian companies that have got decades upon decades of experience with events and experience with showing off. I'm telling you now, a training ground, you are looking at the best in the world. I think Newcastle really has the potential of actually building the best possible training ground in this league, the best possible training ground in this country, and you're talking some of the world's best. And I reckon Newcastle will be that serious. I think we will, especially we get new players in. You've seen with FFP, you've seen with PSR, you've seen with the player wages, how much Newcastle is being restricted. But there's other ways of being able to bend around that. If Newcastle can show their ambition, if Newcastle can show the players now what they can achieve and what they will achieve, I think Newcastle has an edge about them. And if they're smart, if they're clever, they can work around it. And I think having one of the world's best training grounds and showing off the ambition that way is going to encourage and entice players to join Newcastle United. And it's something that we'll see over the next couple of years as the club buys that land, confirms it, and addresses statements about it. This is looking good, though. I think we're looking at the world's best. Yeah, I really think we are. As for new St James's Park, Craig Hope has stated there are still ongoing issues, which of course means that that stadium will be delayed and we still won't hear anything about it yet. And whatever these issues are, hopefully Newcastle can sort it out, because this is a real delay now. You went from, you're talking May, June, all the way across to September, and we're still not ready yet. So there seems to be some issues that are problematic enough to mean that Newcastle is unable to have that stadium sorted. And for me, I think with the time we have now, Newcastle being able to sort this out, I think we need to honestly look at the situation itself. How many fans realistically can we have in this brand new stadium where we can get as many people in as possible while also keeping that ticket demand there? Because again, I use this Barcelona queue as an example. While yes, of course, amongst there be a lot of repeated users, a lot of people just trying to look with bot accounts and trying to get the tickets that way. But I think there is a real demand at Newcastle. I think seriously, week by week basis, has to be over 70,000. I think it has to be. Again, I don't want to come across as deluded because you have to look at Newcastle historically. We've won one trophy in the last 70 years. Look at a team like Manchester United. They've got a 78,000 seat stadium. I know they're moving up to well over 100,000. Deep down, Manchester United does not sell that out every single week. And that's a team, of course, that's had a few bad years now. It's lost a bit of that ambition towards them. My issue is, what happens if Newcastle drops off? What happens if Newcastle has a couple of bad seasons? What happens if Newcastle just has a season, no European football, doesn't perform that well in the league? Our demand will fall off, and then your expensive and overinflated ticket prices, then you've got an issue of fans complaining, going, well, why am I paying this much for a ticket? One perform well on the pitch, and Newcastle needs to keep that balance. They need to always have demand. If you lose demand, then you aren't going to get overseas fans coming over, spending thousands of pounds in a hospitality package. So Newcastle always need to find that balance. But I stand by, especially with the demand now, where the football club is now, more than 70,000. I think we can do it. And I think Newcastle needs to make sure we can maximise profit while getting as many people in the stadium as possible, because we need to make sure our supporters, you guys watching, can actually go to the games, because that's the point of a stadium expansion, so you guys can go there. And finally, before we wrap the video up, Jamaal Lascelles, there is still a possibility he could leave this summer due to the fact that the Turkish transfer window is still open. Of course, the Turkish clubs have got opportunity to sign players, and Lascelles is someone that seems to be on the radar, a player who, to be honest, is still far down Newcastle's pecking order. And I seem to be one of the only Lascelles defenders out there, but considering Lascelles, you're talking a 5th/6th centre-half option, I actually think he's very good for being a 6th or 6th choice centre-half. I actually think his ability is good. He's clearly fit. My word, he's a beast, by the way. I would not want to fight Jamaal Lascelles. He has to be probably the biggest and hardest Newcastle United player. He is massive, and he's someone that still seems determined. I think he's quite big behind the scenes. You've got to remember he was a former captain, and I'm willing to bet he still has quite a big voice in the dressing room. And you know what? Unless the money is good, which you have to be realistic, it's not going to be good for him. I think Newcastle should be keeping hold of Lascelles. I actually think we should. Not every single player is going to be at a level of a player like Botman or Bruno or Tonali or a Trippier. Like, every single player has a part to play. And while Lascelles hasn't got a huge part on the pitch, I think he has a massive part behind the scenes. And he's someone that you want to keep there. He's someone that's not getting paid an awful amount of money under FFP and PSR, unless there's good money there, which is just not going to be. I don't think we should be selling Lascelles. I actually think we should be keeping hold of him. I think his impact behind the scenes is good for Newcastle. And again, I think for where he is at a football club, I think it's a very solid option for where he is. Again, you're talking 5th or 6th choice centre-half. Is he a bad option for that? No. I think he's actually good for where he is at the club. 100%, if you had my opinion now, I would keep a hold of Jamaal Lascelles. But we'll see what happens in the next couple of days and whether him leaving the football club is a real possibility. But let me know your opinions down below, guys. Appreciate you all watching. Take care. Let me know any questions you want answered down below. Just let me know your overall opinions on this ticket situation, everything going on this week. Were you successful for Barcelona? I've had bad luck this season. I've heard a lot of people in the ballot are 0-6, 0-7. Haven't had a chance at anything so far this year. So let me know your opinions. Let me know how things are getting on. Appreciate you watching. Take care, and we will see you all in the next one.